Good to have you back with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. It is now, of course, the time for endorsements. We're just a couple of months away from the Iowa caucus, and the fact of the matter is that endorsements do matter. Boots on the ground, I think, matter a heck of a lot more than endorsements. But this is a combination of sorts. State Senator Nina Turner of Ohio has turned and gone with Bernie Sanders in the Sanders campaign as a big endorsement. She's also worked in the state of South Carolina, helping the senator get better connected with the African-American community. And in the recent polling out there, Bernie Sanders has gone up 16 points with minorities in this country, while Hillary Clinton has dropped 11 points. For more on that, we bring in Nina Turner. Senator, good to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Ed.
Why Bernie Sanders?
Well, he is the public servant of our time. You know, once I got a chance to be introduced to him like so many other Americans, and you tune out the noise, you find out that this is a man who has had a righteous indignation for the working poor and middle class of our country for well over 30 years, for his entire career. He is a champion of the people, and he's unashamed. He has that fire in the belly, and he will transform this nation. And so for me, Ed, he really spoke to my heart once I had a chance to really just kind of peel it back. I had the opportunity to talk to the senator, to hear from him as to why he is running this race, to make sure that people who have been left behind in this country are lifted in a very profound way. And, you know, I had to go where my heart led me, and so that is why I'm endorsing Senator Bernie Sanders, or I have endorsed Senator Sanders. Is
he making gains in the African-American communities in this country?
He is, and, you know, he was just in Atlanta today. He, you know, visited the MLK Memorial. He's been spending lots of time across the country in the African-American community. People should not count him out. We got to remember that he is the senator from Vermont, which is a very small state in the United States of America. Most of the population is not of color, is actually white. And so he has not had the benefit of having a national profile. But what we find is that the more people hear him and get a chance to see him, they begin to change their mind. You know, he was just in Cleveland last Monday, a week ago, yesterday, as a matter of fact, and well over 10,000 people showed up at the Cleveland State University. A lot of those folks, young people in their 20s, but there were some millennials of color in that audience as well. And so we just have to make sure that the senator gets the exposure that he needs, that he gets the introduction to the American people, particularly the African-American and Hispanic community, and we will see him turn this thing around.
What are the big issues in Ohio that Bernie Sanders could connect on that would turn the African-American vote in his favor in your state? And, of course, if anybody wants to win the White House, they got to win Ohio. I believe that you're one of the biggest endorsements that Bernie Sanders has and could get. With the tireless work that you have done and the advocacy that you have done, your credibility is immense with many people in Ohio. What is it? What are the issues that would bring African-American voters and people of color to Bernie Sanders?
Well, thank you. And I think his racial justice platform, which is more comprehensive than any other candidate that's running to become the president of the United States. I mean, in Cleveland, Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders said that he, as president of the United States, will do everything that he can to eradicate institutional racism. I mean, the crowd went crazy, and even though that crowd was predominantly not of color, it was the 20-something white young people that are attracted to the senator, his message was this, that together as Americans, whether you're black or white, this is our job to fight for this. I've never heard anybody say that, not even our current president, to stand there to say that he will work tirelessly to try to eradicate institutional racism. You know, he talks about in his criminal justice or his racial justice platform the acknowledgement that this country has been unfair to African Americans and the Hispanic community and poor people, and that there are 4 pillars that he is going to fight for. It's physical, political, legal, and economic. That he calls those the 4 central types of violence that have been waged against our black and brown citizens. And he is laying it out there. He talked about the relationship or lack thereof between communities of color and law enforcement. And as you know, in Ohio, Ed, especially in Cleveland, we lost young Tamir Rice. A year ago, this past Sunday, and John Crawford in Cincinnati. There's been a slew of police violence, unarmed black men and women being shot and killed at the hands of police. Senator Sanders addressed that head on. He didn't apologize for it. He addressed it head on. And he basically said this: we're going to have justice and accountability and transparency. There are good police officers, but the system has been unfair to African Americans. I mean, it was a thing of beauty. And the more people hear that, if you are a fair-minded person of any ethnicity, you would have to say that this is the right thing to do, that we as a nation must address this. We cannot stand for injustice for anybody. Yeah. And Senator Sanders is talking about that.
One of the things that Senator Sanders has been paramount on is voting rights.
Yes.
And you, of course, have done a lot of work in Ohio and around the country on that issue. That and the fact that he doesn't take super PAC money.
That's right.
And Citizens United and getting the big money out of politics and having the little folks have a voice. Do these issues connect with people of color? I mean, when he was in Cleveland, did those issues connect? Do you see this really growing in the state of Ohio?
Oh, I do. I do, Ed. He had a small clutch afterwards, and the majority of the room was of color, was African Americans, and there was a young activist who said to Senator Sanders, he said, "I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that Senator Turner is on your side, and I what you had to say out there really speaks to me." His name is Bashir Jones, and he is a young activist here in the city of Cleveland. And to have him say those words to the senator is very powerful. Now, you multiply him. So you take him and the fact now that he is a believer in Senator Sanders, he's going to go out there and talk to his peers, and he has the street credibility. This is a Morehouse graduate, born and raised in the city of Cleveland, went to college as an activist, using his gifts to lift people. He had the opportunity to hear Senator Sanders speak and preach the gospel of uplift and what he would do as a leader. Those things speak. And so we have to get the senators in more situations like that, so we multiply his message so that millennials of all ethnicities get a chance to hear him, to vibe with him when he talks about making sure that college is free, so that our young people, public college is free, so that they're not saddled by debt, so that they have a future in front of them instead of being saddled with that. That speaks to them too. So it absolutely, he is making ground. He needs more surrogates. We got to get him more into the African American community, which he is doing that. But for everybody that hears from him, for the most part, he wins them over. Well,
the surrogates are you and Larry Cohen and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, with the amount of attention that the campaign is actually getting in the mainstream media, it seems like Bernie can handle most of it. There's not a slew of surrogates who are out there. I don't know how that plays or what it's going to mean. I do know that your credibility is hard to match, and so is Larry Cohen's when it comes in the labor world. Bernie Sanders was asked about the truth, and he was asked about what kind of campaign it would be if he were up against Donald Trump. Here it is.
Well, I would hope that in our democracy in the United States of America, the truth does matter. The truth will matter. And trust me, if I run against Donald Trump, he will, and the American people will learn the truth. And that is that Donald Trump should not be president of the United States, that we have to reinvigorate American democracy, that we have got to create an economy that works for the middle class and not just the top 1%. So there's nothing more that I would enjoy than the opportunity to take on Donald Trump and expose many of the fabrications that he has brought forth.
And Nina Turner, what is the possibility of that becoming a reality? What has to happen for Bernie Sanders to defeat Hillary Clinton, in your opinion?
Well, we got to get him out more, Ed. That's number one. The secretary has a national profile advantage. There's no doubt about that, and we can't run from that. But what we do have is an extraordinary candidate, and as I said when I introduced him in Cleveland, he is the public servant of our time. He is the person who's saying that I am going to model within my campaign. I'm not going to take PAC money. The only people I'm going to have to answer to are the people, you, the donors, and out there talking about raising the minimum wage, out there talking about when you turn 18 in this country, you should automatically be registered to vote, that your voice is important, talking about how the working poor are being crushed and the middle class is being squeezed. We have to get his message out there, and he will win this. And there was some recent polling that shows that if Senator Sanders goes head-to-head with Mr. Trump, he wins.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear the senator say that he would love to engage and go head-to-head with him because he will win.
All right. Former state senator from Ohio, Nita Turner, great friend of ours here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Keep up the good work, my friend. We'll do it again.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ed. You too.
You bet.